Hello all my Kenvians, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. I do apologize for the delays that have been occurring, but for those of you that have been keeping up on the channel, I'm sure you know what's been going on, or at least part of what's been going on. But today I'm going to be watching the episode Knock Knock, which I have honestly just been painstakingly waiting to watch to find out if my theory from last time is correct or not. I'm assuming it's not. But that, the knock knock is we find out what's behind the vault. But that's besides the point. So the episode today is Knock Knock. And actually, before I get into this video, I do want to say just real quick that any of you that are still patrons over on my Patreon, thank you so much. Now, any of you that aren't patrons, if you're just watching this video, thank you so much. All of your support counts. But the patrons, it's like those of you that are able to give, just $1 just for the possibility of having one of these videos around a day ahead, I just cannot thank you enough, and you all are amazing. But that being said, all my Kenvians are amazing, and I'm going to shut up now and begin Knock Knock. There's someone in the house with him. He's gonna get murdered. I don't know why I did this. Literally a classic horror movie setup. I knew it! Okay, so whatever it was already in the room, which means a ghost, or, some alien incarnation of a ghost. Shadow monster? Haven't seen those in a while. Of course, it's also not a library. It did have a lot of wood, though, so who knows? Maybe they got the wood from the same galaxy.
Yes. Hi. Oh, yeah, he's just puppy. It's just my granddad. Wait, I don't look old enough.
Oh, that annoyed face.
Oh, wow, Doctor. Legend.
Shadow monsters?
Big robots, big fish.
That's a good point. Oh my god, what if the house is made of the wood that the library is that had all the shadow monsters? This is gonna be pretty friggin' gruesome.
The house is really creaky. Every touch is like
Sound avoidable, romantic.
how do you get to the tower?
You don't. The tower is specifically excluded from the terms of our agreement.
I feel like I've been looking at this entire episode the same way the Doctor is looking at everything. Or at least every scene with him.
That is not. Yeah, I get that you interview, but it's not my time. Just I tend to go to girls usually, so.
Oh, alright. I was never enough a chance. Awesome.
Jeez, stop! This is what I'm talking about.
That's the way you should, isn't it?
No, it's annoying.
He handled that really well, thank friggin' God. They didn't have him being all moody because he couldn't get the girl he was into.
We're trapped.
The house is alive, and the house is going to eat them.
What's that? I can't be trapped.
Whatever that is, it's like the rustling is like digesting.
Oh, look, wait, put it back.
He's released.
Yes, clearly.
I was expecting something quite different. No other way to get out.
Are these the bugs that the Vardy are based on? Is he an,
Treatment, doctor. But what's the medical history?
is he an alien then? Because if he's the father,
The doctors have. One day your father brings you a present. What did you find?
is he immortal?
You find the incense. You bring it into the house because you want to show them to her, presumably just to.
He'd have to be well over 100.
You couldn't know what they were. Can you help her?
Probably well over 120.
Help her. How did you find out?
So if he's her father, she was preserved 70 years ago.
No flies in Bluebird. No bugs, too.
I do not understand.
I forget, you see, your human lifespan is not long. Do not let them trouble you. Did you remember the last thing I said?
My father,
He's her kid.
he just wants space.
Yes, the lice.
Well, now everyone's dead.
Yes, your friend. She's restoring them.
Well, thank God for that.
I've got a new story for you, too. There's a haunted house. Would lice from space. And lots of young people get eaten. I'm coming in.
What?
My
Okay. Oh. See you all after the break for the review portion. I got nothing. Hello again, all my Kenvians, and welcome to the review portion of this video. And wow, this episode, I don't have words for it. I don't have words for it. Just, I mean, I know I'll go into more detail, but just to get it right out there, this was an amazing episode. This is easily my favorite of this season so far. So, you know, there's a brief summary of my overall thoughts, but let's get right into my favorite parts of this episode, starting with the creepy mystery landlord. Or, well, I don't think he ever actually gets a name. It's just the landlord. But dear God, he was creepy. He was just creepy from start to finish in this entire episode. But I feel like I have seen him in other things. If I had taken the time, I would have looked on IMDb to see what else he might have been in. But there's just something very familiar about him, but at the same time, just whoever he is, it's like I forgot any other characters. He is this creepy landlord, and he owns it. And the way that, just the way I felt about the characters, like, you know, clearly being creeped out for like 99% of the episode, and then the realization of who he is, not the father, but the son of Eliza, and then just the way he acted, it was this amazing descent into this childlike mindset. It's like, he was very simple-minded and very creepy, and thinking back to it like that, if it was like a kid with a one-track mind who, probably doesn't have very good social skills and being able to, not appear strange as an older man around anyone, it's just like everything about the way he acted throughout this episode made sense. Especially leading up to where he's crying, like his mother embraces him and he's crying, no. And it encapsulates this childish mindset so perfectly. I absolutely loved that. If I remember, I'm going to put the actor's name in here too, just so in case you didn't know who he is, you'd be able to look him up as well. Or just go to IMDb, whatever you want. But moving on from there, my second favorite part of this episode was just the stereotypical, you might say cheesy, horror setup that was the intro, or at least the introductory scene for what was going on when, what was his name? Pavel? But when he was in the house by himself, it's just like, the dark house, no electricity on, which was kind of weird to begin with. But just like the creaky boards, and then all of a sudden he's taken and the door slams by itself. It was such a well done, very well crafted method of just doing all that, and it was a perfect setup for this episode. I feel like for what ended up being not really a haunted house, clearly, but a sci-fi-ish explanation for a haunting of sorts, which is one of the really good things that this show does. Is like it takes stuff that one might consider a haunting in any other genre, but in Doctor Who they do it in a very effective way and just blow it out of the water. But anyway, I'm getting off topic there. Moving on, my third favorite part of this episode was just the section where the Doctor is helping Bill move. It's just all of their interactions. I absolutely love the interactions between the Doctor and Bill. That should be clear by now. I've mentioned it in other episodes as well. But I really like that. And it brings up the regeneration question. Well, Time Lords, which is kind of explained to a degree, probably as much as it will be to Bill. But then the regeneration question comes up. It's like, regeneration? And even the Doctor's just like, it's a little bit too much information for right now. Let's just focus on Time Lord and move on. So, undoubtedly, that's going to be a subject that comes up later in the season. The series. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was the Doctor's clear concern. And it was such an adorable, you might call it father-daughter or grandfather-granddaughter-ish relationship that was portrayed here, but the Doctor is like, he's clearly concerned for what's going on. He can tell something is up. And despite Bill's, saying that she wants him to go and leave her alone, that, this is her life without him, which I appreciate the fact that, Bill is trying to establish boundaries here, or, there clearly are boundaries set up, but to make those more clear to the Doctor, I really appreciate that they did that with her character. But it's just like the way the Doctor shows his concern. And then at the end of the episode, it's just like, well, back to the real estate agent. Better luck next time. It was a stark contrast to his concern that he had been showing, well, specifically for Bill, the entire time. He didn't know the other kids until this episode. Of course, neither did Bill, except for one of them. But, I really like the Doctor's concern. And again, it's like, that little tick at the end where the concern is just kind of thrown up in the air, thrown out of there. Well, my next favorite part of this episode was that little scene where Bill holds up the picture of her mom and just like shows her room, and it was a really sweet emotional little scenes. Like, it wasn't hugely impactful. It's not going to make you cry, but it's something there that it shows just another aspect of Bill's personality that just gets you right here, or it should, in my opinion. It's like she's just a very well fleshed out character, and a character that I really do love. And I know or at least I've heard that some people don't really care for Bill. And the more that I see her, I mean, I'm only 4 episodes into the series, but at least at this point, I don't understand why they wouldn't like her. But this is just another one of those reasons or another one of those little scenes that just solidifies my enjoyment, my like of Bill. But moving on from there, my next favorite scene, my next favorite part was where the Doctor tries to blend in with the kids. It's like, he's hip with the kids again. And he gets Bill's phone and starts playing that modern music, which, now that I think about it, that's going to be another scene that I'm probably going to have to leave out of YouTube because copyright. Gotta love it. But yeah, any of those scenes I find hilarious for reasons I mentioned previously, because this is like, how do you do, fellow kids? But anyway, moving on from there, my next favorite part about this episode is that the house, the wood, is alive. And what we end up finding out about these bugs is like the wood isn't necessarily alive, but it is certainly part of this organism that the bugs are a part of, the Dryads or the wood lice, whatever they're called. But unless I'm just completely off base in saying this, it is an accurate statement to say that the house or the wood is alive, because the wood was absorbing the people and taking their energy. Which actually reminds me of an annoyance that I have, and I'm going to do my best to remember that annoyance for after. Actually, I'm going to write it down right now. Okay, so moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was that they actually did find a door behind the bookcase. The one guy, Paul? I think that was his name. But anyway, he mentioned when he was helping Bill carry up her stuff, he kept looking for like a bookcase with a door behind it, like when you pull one of the books. And they actually did find that, which it's silly, but at the same time, I love it because it's one of those stereotypical things about these old creepy houses. It's like, Frankenstein, or Young Frankenstein, which is the one that comes to mind mostly for me. But it's like all these movies, all these mystery and ghost movies that have those hidden doors behind bookshelves. And it was a nice little callback, and very much a stereotype for movies and shows like this. But it's one that I enjoy nonetheless. Moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was the Dryads, or the wood lice. I'm just going to stick with Dryads because I kind of like calling them that. But just what they were really fascinates me, and actually it's going to be something that I get into as far as my question of the episode goes a little bit more. So I'll just leave it at that. It's like one of my favorite parts of this episode was the Dryads, or the little roach bugs with the glowy things. Yes. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode was Eliza and Her Son, which is the twist that we get there. And I was personally kind of surprised in myself, because I was just kind of throwing a theory out there just because things didn't seem to be adding up. But the fact that we find out that the old man was in fact not her father but her son, for a little bit there I thought that maybe he was part of the house and that's why he had been around so long. But no, it makes sense. He is her son. And just the way that after that's revealed, the Doctor helps her to take control of these bugs and to take control of the situation and she acts as a mother to her son for the first time in over 70 years. Well, maybe not that long. She might have still retained some of the motherly aspects for a while, but not permanently. So let's say half of that time, approximately, as the first time she had mothered her son in 35 years. So, yeah, just that entire concept I really enjoyed. And not only that, but at first I thought that the Eliza was CG, and it may be. I mean, I could be off base here, but from what I could tell, her entire outfit, I'm pretty sure, was practical effects. Like paint and probably contacts, maybe a little bit of CG just to make it more soft, I guess. But overall, it's just, I mean, I'm probably being tricked, but I'm pretty sure those were practical effects that were being done on her. And if that's the case, good job to the costume people, because I really, like, that was a terrifying looking wood person to see there. So yeah, good job on that. Eliza and Her Son. My next favorite part of this episode was the victims restored. And it was something that I wasn't expecting. That's why it was one of my favorite parts. I like the fact that after having seen people get killed, she didn't see Miss. Dang it. Losing my train of thought. But basically, after some of the traumatic experiences she had gone through for the past 3 episodes, finding bones, seeing a little kid get, sucked under and then getting killed, and then, seeing at least one, there was Pavel, whatever his name is, and then her other friend, I hate this, it starts with an S. Crap. Anyway, her friends, seeing them being seemingly eaten by these bugs, and to finally get to see them restored, it was, as a matter of empathy and sympathy for the character of Bill, that's what made it one of my favorite parts, is that she didn't really have to worry. She didn't truly lose those people in the end, which is a nice thing when it happens in Doctor Who. Yeah, I know, there's the whole death thing with the head writing and all that, but in this case, I really do appreciate it. And then finally, my last favorite part of this episode, the Doctor opens the vault. And that's all I'm going to say for right now, because that's going to lead into a theory I have at the end of this video. So, those are all my favorite parts. As for some annoyances, I do have 2. The first of which is that the whole house hunt aspect at the beginning, with the pop music that I'm having to leave out of the YouTube portion of this video because copyright, it felt rushed and also somewhat unnecessary. It's like, there's 6 kids there. I kind of assume they want to have a big house. I don't see why they had to see a super small house first, and then one by the crappy factory or whatever it was. It's like, it could have just been, them looking for a house, it being acknowledged that Bill only knew one of them, and everyone else was new to her, and then while they're doing the hunt and they're not having luck, they run into creepy old guy. It's just, in my mind, that would have worked a lot better, and it wouldn't have felt so weird and rushed. At least that's my opinion on it. Now, my second annoyance with this episode is that there doesn't seem to be any effects from having been absorbed into the house. Now, since it was every 20 years, that means that it takes a long time, clearly, for the people that are taken in to be absorbed, to have their matter and energy stripped of them. But at the same time, the one kid whose name starts with P, it's like he had been absorbed at least partially into the house for over a day. Surely he has some lasting effects going on there. At least none that were displayed. It seemed like he was doing just fine when he reappeared. So, I think that's it. I mean, obviously they were ending the episode, so they couldn't really delve into that much. But, I don't know, it seemed like there should have been some sort of lasting effect, or at least have it at least seemingly portrayed. There might have been some kind of trauma on the part of these kids, two of which we saw basically eaten alive. I mean, that's what the best I can think of to describe it. But yeah, those are my annoyances with the episode. And then my moment of terror was just Pavel, whatever his name is, in the wall. Just like those eyes, like, you know, the plain whites, like very wooden. And that was just something bizarre and terrifying about that little sequence of events. And I absolutely loved it. This was such a well done horror themed episode. But okay, those are all my favorite parts, my annoyances, and obviously my moment of terror. So, as always, please do let me know what some of your alls were in the comments down below. Let me know if you think I missed anything, or whether you agree or disagree with some of what I had to say here. But moving on from there, do have a question regarding this episode, and also kind of by connection of the episode Smile 2 episodes ago. And my question is this: are the Dryads, or the wood lice, whatever they're called, are they an early ancestor of, or perhaps did they inspire the creation of the Vardy from the episode Smile? Because they were within the construct. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like there's a connection there, and it will probably never be explained. I have no idea. Maybe that's something I'd have to get lucky and run into Moffat or whoever it was, or the people that wrote both of these episodes, in order to really see if there's any possible grounds to that theory. But, well, theory or question, maybe a little bit of both. But yes, it's like, are these Dryads connected to the Vardy? I think that's the simplest way to put it, yeah. So, okay, that's my question. If for some reason this series does reveal a connection there, obviously don't tell me what it is. Or if it actually happens, but it is something I'm legitimately interested to know one way or another. Or maybe it'll just be my headcanon. But moving on from there, my track of the episode was this very simple and high-pitched track that was playing within the tower. It was essentially, it spanned from the time that the Doctor came into Eliza's room and he was talking to her, and then through to the end where Eliza and the Doctor, Eliza and her son, are taken away by the Dryads. And just that track, it was so creepy. It fit this episode so well, and really did well with the whole, high-pitched tones that were used to kind of control the Dryads in this case, as was done by the Landlord. I keep wanting to think of his name, but I forget that he doesn't have one in the context of this episode. But yeah, that's my track of the episode. I hope I described that well enough for you to know what I'm talking about. If it actually does have a name, I would love to know what it is. And then my quote of the episode, I feel like there weren't that many quotable lines in this episode. There are definitely a few, but my favorite one came right near the end with Nardole when he's talking to the Doctor at the ball. He says, "You see, we don't have to go to outer space to find monsters. there's plenty of things want to kill you right here on Earth. And it's just so matter of fact, and it's just perfect, really. I love Nardole. He definitely doesn't play a huge role in this series. I suspect he may play a bigger role in a few episodes as it goes along, or who knows, maybe he'll get dismantled again eventually. I have no idea. But yes, it's like, as far as this episode goes, that is definitely my quote of the episode. And then finally, my theory for this episode, and possibly for the series, based on what happened at the end of this episode when the Doctor opens the door to the vault, and the fact that whoever's in that vault responded to the idea of kids being eaten by bugs. My theory is that the Master, aka Missu, is being held inside the vault. I don't know why. Maybe her and the Doctor came to some sort of agreement, which is why he's stuck there too. But that is my theory, that the Master, aka Missu, is the one inside the vault. Now, why she doesn't just leave if that's the case whenever he opens the vault, I have no idea. She could have escaped when he put a piano in there. But that's my going theory for now, until I get possible evidence otherwise. Just because of the way that whoever's in there responded to, gruesome things, I can only kind of assume that it's someone who might get a kick out of that, which again is most likely Missu. But yeah, before I get into my further thoughts on my overall feelings for this episode, if you have any of your own favorites, annoyances, if there's a question to my answer that isn't a spoiler, your own tracks of the episodes, quotes, etc., 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 please let me know what they are in the comments down below. I really want to hear what you all have to say, and hear what you have to say about my thoughts too. It's always interesting to see if, you feel I might be way off or not, or maybe a little bit too close. Perhaps I'm getting too close to the truth. Yes. Anyway, my overall thoughts on this episode, as I mentioned before, it's a great episode. It is by far my favorite of this series so far. And I feel like it hits all of the right notes for me. Horror and sci-fi combined is just an excellent combination when done right, and I feel like they did it really well in here. They had the proper horror elements without going just straight up jump scares. Actually, I don't think there were any jump scares, to be honest, unless you count like the occasional knocks and the sudden screaming. But there was heart in it. There was emotion. It's like you can see in Bill's eyes, the pain that she's feeling of seeing her friend being destroyed, and it's just like the shock on her face, and just the elements of all of it. I feel like this is just one big, very solid episode, and even though I had more annoyances here than I have for a few episodes, those are really just overall huge nitpicks, especially the first one, where the intro I felt was unnecessary. That's a huge nitpick there. The second one, just for me, is it feels like a lack of closure in my eyes. But that aside, so this is a really, really good episode that I guess because of how good it is why perhaps those little tiny things irked me enough to point them out. But yeah, that is all I have to say about the episode Knock Knock, everyone. I really hope that you all enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about it, whether you liked it or not, etc., etc. And I will be seeing you all next time for Oxygen, which, outer space, I guess? I assume. Or maybe they're underwater again, I don't know. That's probably going to be an outer space adventure, which just sounds good to me. But I will leave it at that again. Until next time for Oxygen, I am Papa Ken, and I will see you all in the next video. Allons-y!